Hey dudes, welcome back to another episode of our Ramos Men's Team podcast. You are about to listen to one of our prior team meetings. If you ever want to join one of our live sessions that we have every Monday and Friday, head over to rhomas.com. That's RHOMAS.com and put your email in and we will send you a live link every time we record. We generally record on Mondays and Fridays. So if you ever want to be on the actual podcast, like we bring men up all the time to talk about their goals, talk about their obstacles, etc., head over to rhomas.com. And then also, if you want to help support the channel grow and also have access to exclusive content, book reviews, extra whiteboard sessions, etc., and some coaching sessions, head over to patreon.com and support us. We would love it. But if not, no biggie. We'll see you on the live sessions. Later, dudes. Enjoy this podcast.
Ramos Men's Team. I'm doing the intro this week.
Yes.
What's up, Wes? How you doing?
Mr. McCusker, what's up, brother? Dude, yeah, I like that's like a Jocko Willenick. You ever listen to Jocko?
Yeah.
I love the guy. I love the disciplinary, but for some reason the voice kind of gets in the way for me. Like seems like a super great guy, disciplined, but it like the welcome to the that thing.
Yeah.
You had a little bit of that going. I love it.
I'm gonna kick your ass.
Going on in the background
Having
today,
the flag
man.
behind me pumps me up. Maybe I think that might be what it is.
You can see it running through your veins. American flag,
dude.
And you got all pieces of it. You got the stars.
You got the blue thing. Yeah, man. I mean, we honestly tried it. I'm in my my podcast studio, and we like half jokingly we're just gonna make it look like Rogan's as a joke, and then we even couldn't do that properly, so it just looks like the weirdest space.
I love it, man.
It is fun, but yeah, dude. Actually, I've been and I'm talking to a guy. I think tomorrow again. He does threat. He does threat assessment for the country. Like I guess the government contracts him to do like threat assessment. I think he does like corporate threat assessment, all this other stuff.
Okay.
But we were talking about like geopolitical stuff going on between America and China. But the whole point of that is I'm starting to get a little patriotic, dude, just about not so much against like countries or anything, but like having people start to get out of their political malaise. Because I think America has like the lowest voter turnout in all the democratic countries. I could be wrong about that. But most people,
I believe it.
So most people will just look at it and go like, I'm not voting for these. I'm not voting for either two of these guys because it just seems so out of touch and everything. So part of what I want to start doing the next couple of years is just getting the lay of the land of local just seeing how it actually works. And because I think that is kind of a distraction to fight about the president when it's like, well, what about, how about the fact that you can't build a shed in your backyard? Maybe you can flip that around before you go and like tackle the national debt, like whatever else.
Yep.
So, and I don't want to run or anything, but I just want to see how it works and start to like get a better understanding rather than just being like, whatever, stuff's all fixed. It's blah, 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 blah. Because I feel like that's just like, I don't know. I don't think that does anything. So,
yeah, I love the idea. So you're thinking about focusing on local politics versus national politics.
Yeah, just so I have an understanding of how that works. Because again, like right now, if you were to be like, name the branches of the government, I'm like, didn't pay attention to that part in school. Senate, Congress, I know they're different things. I don't know what they do. So I would like to try to just piece some understanding. Rather, because otherwise, if you don't understand it at all, then it's like you're just watching YouTube videos, and it's just like, it just kind of devolves into like, there's nothing. It's all fixed, and that's that, and you're just a blah 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 blah. And which maybe that's the case. I don't know, but I'm going to try to actually see if that's, see how true that is or not. That makes sense.
Yeah, I actually think it's a great exercise. And I like the idea of starting from the ground up, looking locally, and then extrapolating that up. No, I completely agree. Maybe someday we can get this guy on our show. He's a really good friend of mine, former mayor of the city that I live in, and great guy. And he'd probably be willing to walk us through some of it and obviously give us some of the academic knowledge. But then I'd imagine it's like anything else. There's a big difference between the textbook version of what that thing is and what the real life version is. So he'd probably be willing to give us some behind the scenes stuff.
I would love that. I always wanted to sit with a politician and be like, what do you do? What's going on over there? Like, not to fry him. It's just like, I'm just mystified. I have no idea how any of it works. And people are telling me like, it's important, man. You got to do this. And in my head, I'm like, I don't know. I never do anything, and I'm chugging along, but I do want to start. So I do feel like it's like, it does suck that everyone's launched into this, like, like whatever, there's nothing you could do. America's just like falling apart. And it's like, well, dude, if you really feel that way, it's like, you don't think you should do like anything, you know what I mean? Like to maybe
Right.
try to stop that a little bit, or even
Right.
just give it an effort. Like, yo, no, dude, there's nothing to do. Everything I read right now, and like, especially like in the like Atlantic, a lot of like the popular, I think even the Economist are painting this picture like how America lost, how America's been defeated. And it's like, I don't know. I hope that's not the case. So.
Right. No, man, I totally understand what you're saying. So there's another guy that I'm thinking that we can have on as well, and he's actually a Philadelphia guy, and you know him. I think you know him. Have you met Brian?
I think a
Yeah, great
long,
guy.
long time ago, we went out to dinner. I remember you're saying that you're the one
Yeah,
guy. Was
yeah, we
really
should
cool.
probably put it together and head out to dinner sometime. But when you walk around, I'm not kidding. When you walk around with this guy in his neighborhood, and it's a relatively decent sized city, we get stopped at least 5 times where people come up to him and say, "Hey, Brian, how you doing?" Like, just a phenomenal guy. But one of the major reasons is because they call him the unofficial mayor, because he does so much with local politics. And it's not about, it seems like, and I don't know anything about politics either, but it seems like there's a major difference between national politics and local politics, even like in the posturing or anything like that, where from my experience of watching him in local politics, it's all about, hey, how can we bring the community together? And, what can we do for the holidays? Let's get a parade together. What can we do for the local baseball teams? How many sports do we have? And you're like, all of those things. And then you start to make those changes. And within in a handful of months, it's cool because you can see your plan actually be put into action. So you see the parade happen, and you see the local newspaper and all the stories they're putting out, and how this new restaurant, we're welcoming this restaurateur to the neighborhood. Like those, I think it's a great thing to bring up to our listeners.
Yeah, dude. I mean, and pretty much it's just Romasing. It's just Romasing your local politics. You're just squatting
That's
up,
right. That's right, man.
masterminding. That's the stuff I'm into right now, seeking kind of different avenues of connection in that regard. Like, you should know your name. Like, I live in Philly for 15 years, and I just now in the house I'm in, like, finally, like, well, my one place I actually knew my neighbors pretty well, but mostly you're just walking around with people who are virtually strangers all day, every day. And
Mm,
it's just, I don't think it's that good, and I don't know. I just feel like, especially like with all the social media, people can feel like they're doing stuff, but they're not. They just go on and it's like a little dojo. People can like plug in and be like, yeah, fuck yeah, you suck.
yeah.
It's like, dude, if you're that fired up to sit and watch the news and follow all this stuff, it's like, just show up. Like, they'll be talking about like a budget, and you're like, oh, that's kind of boring. But, I feel like it is something that people could start to do. Like, everyone I know complains about politics. Oh, it's bullshit. I hate both parties. I don't want to vote for any, blah, 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 for the most part. Then it's like, well, I don't know, maybe try to actually, that's the whole point of it, living in a democracy, the fact that you or anybody else could try to like change it to better suit your needs. To live in a democracy and be like, sucks. It's like, all right, I don't know. So that's going to be, that's just a project. That's like, not really, I have other projects going on, but that's something I'm definitely orbiting around right now.
And that's exactly what you said, Ramos. That was hilarious, but that's true. It's, how can you start to take control as a man? How can you start to take control over these areas of life and not be the complainer of the world, not be the observer, not sit in the stands and just complain about how the athletes should be trying harder? How about you try becoming a fucking athlete? How about that? Right. And the cool thing is, yeah, that's the hardest part of it. Like, that's the hardest part of life, is actually playing the game. But that's where all of the rewards are. Clearly, that is clearly where the rewards are, and it's worth it. It is for sure worth it. You talk to any leader, you talk to anybody who's experienced, everybody's experienced success to a certain degree. Well, every time you've experienced the success that's actually worth it and you feel good about, you have to know that you were on the field and not just a commentator on the sidelines. Like, everybody has that experience. It was you playing the game and you failing 100 times. And then, oh man, now I'm going to try out this local politics thing. Oh shit, it's kind of boring. And oh my gosh, all these people are nitpicking and so on. But oh, look, I suggested this thing and now we're doing it in our community. Or, I suggested to all of our neighbors, like, why don't we have a big, big block party, barbecue, blah, 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 et cetera. And then 3 weeks later it happens. You're like, wow, this all started just from a little seed that I had in my head and I put it out there. And wow, look how easy it is. And then, wow, I can apply it to a larger scale. Maybe next time we do 2 streets of a block party instead of just 1 street. So yeah, man, I think you should do it, man. You can do it. You could do that over the next week or two. You know, just a little something for the community.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna try to start doing. Just like figuring out exactly, like, just the first step is like, when do they have these meetings? Where are they? You know what I mean? Like, are they even doing them right now with all the other stuff going on? So yeah, that's that's just one project. But and this kind of stems right. It just kind of flows right into the other thing. So from the book, the whatchamacallit,
Law of success.
Law of success. I was like, power of success habits. So law of success. I'm reading it. You know, it's so funny, man. I take my Epsom salt baths and I just sit in the bathtub and read the law of success. It's pretty awesome. But the thing that that they were talking about was a vitalized state. And that also goes into the psych-null stuff of like, when you say a vitalized state, it's like, you know, people can be kind of like, you know, not so clear, but it's like, it's simply just the sense that your life is expanding rather than contracting or staying the same, you know? And you do feel that when you feel like you opened up, like say you launch something new and it does open up like new vista, you know, in the way it's like, it opens up a whole new possibility. And like, if you're not constantly kind of scratching at the surface, the world either starts to shrink around you or just you feel like you're just in Groundhog's Day where you're like, I guess I just show up here every day and that's just my life and blah, 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 blah. And I'm, you know, pant size is getting a little bit bigger every year. That's just what happens. You know, next thing you know, you're just on a couch with a beer watching this, you know, screaming at the TV 40 years later. But not knocking my pop up. That's all he did. That's what he did. And, you know, and I think, you know, I've always been, from the time I was young, I was always like freaked out. Like, how does that happen? How does it, like, how do you just get completely sucked into like, you know, the everyday occurrence of things, of showing up, smoking a cigarette, complaining about your boss, going in, doing as little as possible, going home, fight it. You know what I mean? Like, I've always been like, I see that and I'm like, there has to be a way around it. And I understand how, you know, you do get pulled into that. But the idea that I think helps is being in a vitalized state where you roll in, you're not sitting in an office by being like, I'm just stuck here forever. There's nothing I can do. You're either like, well, I'm either going to leave here. You know, being vitalized is being like, I'm going to change this stuff that I don't like. The thing that I think helps do that, if people are like, I have no idea how to do that, is through contacting empowering habits every day. So it's like, if you're like, everything sucks, everything's pointless. It's like, well, what are 3 or 4 things you could do every day that would make you feel a little bit better? Like, what are 3 things you want to do every day that you feel like you can't? And again, thanks to you with the daily scorecard and all that stuff, I now have, I think it's I have like 5 or I think I have 6 habits I do a day, and then I score myself if I did them or not. And dude, I've been hitting them. I've been hitting them pretty much every day. You know, there's a couple of them I can't do. Like, one of them's getting proper sunlight, but if it's like stormy out, you know, I just circle it and cross it out, being like, I couldn't get this one. Yeah. Right now I have sunlight, writing, meditating, exercise, vegetables. It's twice a day to get the V. An act of love, you know, doing, if I'm like in a little tiff or something, I'll go make up, or I'll just like clean the dishes, something small. And then sleep. And it's like, dude, I've been like hitting those and like just hitting those now for like 2 or 3 weeks. I lost a bunch of weight. Relationships going well. I'm eating vegetables, which is great. It all starts to kind of play in on it. And then now I just have more energy to do more stuff, where before I would get kind of tapped, you know. So I do think, like, dude, if you just build in those little habits, they're so hard to build. But now it's like, I could never meditate every day. I could never do it. Now I literally do it every single day.
Awesome.
It's crazy, man. So I think that's kind of what gives you that vitalized state. It's like, are you doing the things you like to do every day? Even if you got to go do stuff you kind of don't like to do, you still get to do the stuff you do like to do. And when you're doing the stuff you like to do, it gives you more energy to kind of start shaping that stuff that you don't like about your day to suit your needs better.
Can I throw one challenge out to you to try to put in that habit category?
Yeah.
One thing that I do, I don't remember the last time I did it. I've been doing it for years, and it's probably outside of sleep. I think sleep is like the number one. But outside of sleep, this one little thing like changed everything for me, and it still works. And I know I'm tricking myself, and I don't want to do it most mornings. And then I make myself, and it completely changed my state. And that is, I watch something motivational, even if it's for like a minute or 2 minutes every single morning, like 100% of mornings. It's probably the only habit that I do, not the only habit, but one of the few that I do 7 days a week, because I do take a break typically on Sundays from like working out or something like that. But man, like I go on YouTube and I'll type in, I don't know, like just to be honest, like the one I typed in a couple days ago was like Oprah top 10. There's this great guy, Evan Carmichael on YouTube, and he does like these top 10 from successful people, and those take little video clips from successful people of them just saying, you know, how they got there or something like that. And then I play it on in the shower. Like that is my rule. I don't listen to any, my reward is I get to listen to my financial news after, right? Like, you know, but I can't listen to my, you know, literally. So it's like, I will not, I every single week, like I slap my hand away from the phone. It's like, nope, no financial news, no financial podcast before I listen to my corny, like 1 minute motivational thing. And dude, it always 100% of the time changes my mindset, even just a tiny bit. You know, it's like, oh man, I woke up and like I'm a little achy, my neck's a little achy, or, you know, damn, I got this meeting coming up and I'm not ready for it or whatever. And it's like, nope, just like not delay all that stuff. Listen to my 1 minute, you know, 2 minute mind shift thing. And then dude, every single time it helps. Meditation obviously helps a ton as well, like totally. But it's just like this, like, it's like a little piece of drug that I take every morning, just like a little 1 minute, 2 minute video, play it on in the shower and boom, I'm like ready. It always increases the level of my thought, because if you think about it, like I'm listening to one from Will Smith this morning, and it's, you know, it's very close to sitting down and just having a cup of coffee with that person. And you're talking about very successful people. Like the one I did last week was Warren Buffett. The one I did the week prior was Charlie Munger. Like these are multi-billionaires. The one week prior to that was Jeff Bezos. So I'll do like a whole week with like one particular person just to kind of learn their thought patterns. But it's as close as you're going to get to having a cup of coffee with these people. And I would actually even say it's probably even better, because on the internet, you can find synthesized videos of like their best advice. Right. Versus if like you take somebody out to a coffee, like depending on the day, you might not get their top, you know? So I try it, like just try it one day and just take mental note. And it's for all the listeners out there, take mental note and see if it just changes your mindset just a tiny bit. It doesn't need to be 180-degree difference, but if it's like 2 degrees difference, and then that compounds on itself the next day and the next day and the next day. So, but dude, I'm super pumped.
I like that, man, because and this is like, so there, I would like kind of like ravenously consume that type of content where it's like, you know, it's say inspirational stuff. And then I would get kind of like, you know, I would listen to it and then I wouldn't do anything. I would just listen to it and be like, fuck yeah, dude. Yeah. Then like slowly I'd be like, fuck, whatever.
Doesn't do anything.
Then you start being like, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
User, shut up. Well, it's funny because I used to like read all that stuff, and I used to say it was like crack for business people. You're like, yeah. But again, if you don't like to listen to it and then go do your own stuff, it like, that is a good flow to be in the morning of like pops up. There was a guy, you know, and it is funny because a lot of times these guys tend to be sort of like these larger than life, for me at least, the guys that like will like pump me up. Like there was this guy, Wes Watson, who was in jail for 10 years, and he would make these videos, and the guy is humongous, dude. He's huge. He had to have been, you know, not smiting him. People have accused me of being on steroids. I don't really appreciate it, but he has to be on steroids. He guy's huge.
Yeah.
But he does these talks, and, you know, he talks about like being in jail for 10 years. Now he had to get his mindset straight. And like, you know, I would like, you know, I would always joke around about it on my podcast, but it's like, I was watching his stuff every morning, and like, I was in like a non-workout. I'll fall into non-workout slumps that like are hard to get out of. And dude, I started just watching his things, like half kind of laughing. And then you start watching, same thing. I wake up in the morning, like, does he have a new video? And I just found myself at the gym all the time, because all he talks about is going and hitting the iron. You have to do it and all this stuff. Yeah. And I just would find myself at the gym. So it does work, but it's like, at the same time, it's like, now that I actually have the other half of that, of like actually managing my day in a way that like serves me, rather than just kind of giving into little short-term impulses all day for years. Then you're like, what the hell's going on? Yeah, I like that. I'm going to definitely throw that back in. It's so it's quick, it's easy to do. And that's a good one for like the very, very, you do that in like the very, very beginning of the day?
Every day, every morning. That is the first, literally the first thing I do, because it's super easy. My phone's always like right next to me, you know, charging in the morning, and just boom, just put it right on. And to your point, I've experienced in the past before, let's say like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you only had options to listen to, quote, motivational speakers who were kind of like, you listen to them and you're like, oh yeah, they're really good. Like they say the right words, but it's like, did this guy even do anything? Or he just figured out how to sell the idea of motivation. And I'm not the biggest fan of that. Like that, to me, it seems disingenuous. And I think the internet is to a certain degree, it's kind of expanding those types of personalities. But also to another degree, I think a lot of people are gravitating more towards like, oh, this guy is just a showman versus these guys over here actually did it. Or like, for instance, like Denzel Washington, did it, right?
Yeah.
Oprah Winfrey, did it. Or, Will Smith did it. And then you have like guys like us who are saying, hey, I'm not claiming to be anything special. We're just doing this as a team, right? We're trying to go and get down, knock down our obstacles and our goals as a team. And that's a more authentic view. And I'm not pounding our chest by any means, but that is different than the motivational guru in the past. That turns me off because those are certain things that you listen to and it just sounds like, oh, this is how you should live and blah, blah, blah. And then you find out the guy is like a pedophile, like a couple years later, right? It's like, it's completely not congruent, it's, and this guy's not doing anything except for running out Lamborghinis and, getting out of like helicopters on video and all those. And that just rubs me the wrong way, man. I personally think it sends the wrong message.
Yeah, no, I do too. I don't like that whole. I've always been bothered by that "fake it till you make it" slogan. Like fake it till you make it.
Oh, dude,
Like,
that
make it into
I actually
what?
did a podcast on that. Before you and I started co-hosting,
Did
the
you
fake
really?
it till you make it thing. Oh yeah,
I hate
that
that.
bothers the shit out of me.
What is? I don't even understand what that's supposed to mean.
I get it. I think what the underlying reason for somebody saying that or that slogan coming out is because it's the whole like, well, hey, how am I supposed to get ahead? How am I supposed to get the job if they want experience, but they won't give me the job because I don't have experience? So it's like, so maybe I have to fib a little bit or I have to act like I have the skills. That might sound good in theory and sound rational in theory, but I have found that it doesn't actually play it like that out. It doesn't play exactly like that in real life. So for instance, in the podcast that I did a while ago about this, it was, in my experience, you don't have to fake it. You can just be transparent and candid and honest with the person on the other side of the table and saying, hey, I actually don't have experience in this, but I damn sure have a good work ethic, a great work ethic, and I'm motivated to do this, and I'll give you a reduced price for it. Like, so for instance, for me, when I got to the stock exchange, my pitch was literally, hey, I know that I don't know anything. I've read some books about finance, sure, but I know that I'm just a college student and you own these companies, right? And here's what I know. You don't have time most likely, and I've got all the time in the world. I'll go get your donuts. I'll shine your shoes. I'll do it for your entire staff. Whatever it takes, I will do. And that guy he hired me right on the spot.
Yeah.
And I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that was not faking it until I made it. If I would have claimed to be like a superior trader, right, and convinced him of that, and then get you, what's the plan? I get down there the next day. Like the jobs that are worth it, right? The careers that are worth it, the businesses that are worth it, the clients that are worth it, will find out very quickly if you're fucking lying to them, right? And then you burn the bridge.
Yeah.
But so what's the plan there? I know it sounds good, fake it till you make it, but it's just like that. I think in practice it falls flat on its face.
I've had people say that to me at like, I don't know, man. Like even at like internships, they're like, "Hey, fake it till you make it." I'm like, "What are we talking about? I don't even know what we're talking about." It's like, like they'll talk about like being around like people who like have clout, I guess. Like, and I'm just there, and I'm just faking it till I make it. And it's like, or you're just there. Maybe you've reached the point where you're around these people, and you should stop viewing yourself as a pretender. Just be honest. Be like, I don't know. I don't know how to do this. Or same thing you said. Like, dude, I'll show up every day. Yeah, that whole idea of trying to put yourself off as like the man or the expert or whatever, of like, again, especially if you're dealing with people like you said, if you went in there in a suit and you're just kind of like putting it like, hold on, I had to put down the NASDAQ. All right, the guy would have been like, dude, get the fuck out of here.
Oh yeah, that might work on C-level players, right? You might be able to trick them, but for A-level players in any game, no way. No way. You will lose credibility instantly with those type of people. And if you do get lucky as hell and trick them, you're only going to trick them for like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And then you're never going to be able to talk to them again, ever. So I just got off the phone, and now, at the risk of sounding like one of these guys that we're talking about, we don't want to fit in that bucket. But I'll tell you a story. So a couple weeks ago, I put together two guys. One guy was worth questionably a bit close to $1 billion. And another guy worth, I think it's like his stated net worth is $350 million. And both of these players are doing unbelievable things in the world, like just crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. And I've had a relationship with both of them for many years now. And when these guys do not like their time wasted, like at all. So I call up the one guy and I say, hey, I really think you would benefit from meeting this guy, right? And he says, sure. He's like, I trust you, we'll do it. I said, okay. Call up the other guy who is extremely precise with his time and does not like, anybody to mess with him at all. Very much like an East Coast personality, and just great guy. Well, he and I get along very well together. Anyway, I connect them, but he tells me, he's like, dude, he's like, he sent me an email. He actually had his assistant send me an email. Like, Mr. So-and-so wants to make sure that this is not going to be a political pitch or any sort of business pitch out of respect for his time, right? That's what his assistant says to me. I say, of course. So anyway, I put them together. They had this unbelievable conversation. I said, guys, I'm not doing this for any other reason than I would just like to sit in respectfully. If you don't want me to sit in, I completely respect that, and I will bow out right now. I connected you guys, and I'm good. But I would love for the opportunity to sit in and just listen to what you guys are talking about. I asked that respectfully. I didn't make some sort of like, hey guys, like I can bring this to the table, right? Like the fake it till I make it sort of thing. Just was very honest. And
you didn't pull up in a Lamborghini and like peel out and parallel park and like a 180 skid out and like, what's up, guys?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Throw my keys over to like my fake assistant that I rented for the day. But like, oh, that's the keys to my jet, and they're like, you don't have keys for a jet, dude. I'm like, well, no, my jet does.
Yeah, it's keys.
So anyway, I connected these guys, and I got to sit down on their like 2-hour long conversation, and it was unbelievable. I mean, talking from literally, how you hear in the media, like, artificial intelligence and all these things, but these guys are actually doing this. Right, that's a different thing. Like they're like, oh, I've got these companies over here that are doing this, and here's the projects, and this guy over here is like, oh yeah, here's the stuff that we're working on over here, and it's just wild. Like it's just wild to sit there and listen to it. Anyway, long story short, they end the phone call, and both extremely ecstatic. And the one guy calls me after. He's like, you know what? One of the things I admire about you is that you've always been super candid and honest with me, and you've had a gut, and you've always tried to give me value. And to get that phone call for that guy who's worth hundreds of millions of dollars and like so particular about who he spends time with, to call me and say, and then I said, hey, I heard on the phone call if that you do some hikes. I said, I would love to do a hike with you sometime. He's like, oh yeah, if you're ever in the neighborhood, he's like, come down. He's like, in the next few weeks, come down and we'll do it. So it's those little things that if you are genuine with people and you try your best to give them as much value as possible, you will work your way into crowds that you will never, ever, ever be able to work your way into if you're fucking faking it. Yeah. Right? That just it does not work with those guys that I'm referring to. It will never work. And in fact, they will burn not only the bridge between you and them, they will burn the bridge of you and everyone else around you that's worth it in their circle. It's just not possible because your reputation will always precede you in certain crowds. And in those crowds, for sure, right, you've got no chance. So, yeah, don't fucking fake it till you make it. It's just silly. It's a silly thing to do.
That would have been awesome with the AI stuff. If you went in, you're like, oh, hold on, let me turn off my tertiary cortex. Elon Musk just gave me this thing. What are we talking about? Yeah, I mean, all it takes is for one guy to call you a bullshitter. And then another guy goes, yeah, that guy did kind of bullshit me too. And they're like, yeah. And then you show up and they're like, this fucking asshole, what's he want? And it's like,
yep.
Yeah, no, that's good. And dude, even more to that too is like, there's that whole fake it till you make it idea. Then there's just the idea of like, I kind of suffered from this for a really long time actually, of just like not really connecting with people at all. You know what I mean? Like the idea of like,
Great
asking
topic.
Somebody to go like, wanted to go do something together. It's just like seemed bizarre to me. And I was like, I immediately thought the person would be like, fuck no. It was just like being like, no, fucking buzz off. I'm like, all right. So that is like, and there is value to like, just like it sounds so funny, but like, it's just, this is something I'm legitimately grappling with. I asked my neighbor to come play basketball, and it's like, I'm like, he plays basketball, I play basketball, but I'm like,
that's waiting. Awesome.
He said he'd play.
Did you bring your lunch pal over when you asked him?
Because he said he'd play, but in before I would never do stuff like that. I would be like, I'm not initiating anything like this. I'll stay in my little silo. You'll say hi. We actually were friends. We get along. We talk a lot. But there is like crossing that thing of like, let's go do something. Most people are. Anyone asks me to do anything, I'm like, well, great, awesome. Yeah. But like, that's kind of really what one of the main focuses of this year is getting a real sense of connection through. It only comes through other people. You know what I mean? So like, you have to be able to deal with other people and not be like, this person's different from me, meh, and just, get into my own like
Mhm.
autistic weirdness where I'm like, this person's different, weird, I don't know what to say. So yeah, man, I think that's awesome. The fact that you were able to bring that about, and now it's like, they had the value of talking, and it's not like everyone that whole like, oh, time's money. If you were to be like, I'll connect you, but it's for a small fee, it's just like you just were like, hey, this would be these two people would get on pretty well, and you were right, and now they're like, hey, good call.
Yeah,
So it's
no,
pretty sick.
absolutely. And to your other point prior, what was the point from the book? Uh,
Vitality, state of
yeah,
vitality.
vitality. There was actually funny enough from one of the Will Smith videos that I watched. He had a great line. I'm going to read it because I have it in my phone. So one practice that I would highly suggest everybody listening to this consider is I have a list of like any mental models and quotes. I put them in the same list. I've been doing it for years. So this thing is like probably 45 pages long of just like little one-liners, mental models and quotes and just ways of thinking. But I wrote down, and I always write the most recent one at the top. So he said that he was taught at a young age that positive energy is part of the job description. And I thought that was phenomenal because that feeds right into like the vitality message, right? Like you are supposed to bring, it is a requirement for you in the world and in your endeavors, in your workplace, in your family. If you look at it like that, it is part of your job description to bring a certain amount of energy, positive energy to the table. And man, that like, I heard that quote and that kind of upped the game a little bit for me. Did you read something similar in the book?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of really like. I never thought about that before. How like it really is on you. If you're there sourpussing around, it's like, well, either leave or try to. I don't know. I mean, in terms of the book, I just like just the idea. I mean, he how he goes on to make those claims of like, if you're in a vitalized state, you won't ever get sick, you won't do this, you won't do that.
Mm,
And it's like maybe, but I mean, I do think it also does help in terms of like people not getting. I'm sure if you're like feeling like you're crushing it all day, your level of colds probably do go down
mm.
big time. I would imagine if you're not like completely trashing your body. Um, but yeah, it's just like I've inhabited vitalized states. I've inhabited non-vitalized states for long periods of time. And it's like, I've always, and this is kind of, it's funny too, because you always think about like, what is the actual thing you're chasing in your life? And it's just a vitalized state, because it's like, you get like, sometimes you get the rewards, you make a bunch of money. And I'm like, this is cool. But it like, why doesn't this feel that great? It's like, cause I don't feel vitalized. I'm doing the same thing.
And
I'm
how
not
would you
pushing.
summarize vitalized? So for the listeners.
Just the idea that like there's something on the horizon. Like it's the idea that like you haven't crawled around and touched every area of your life and you're like, well, I guess this is it. It's like you're constantly being like, what's over this? Can you get to what's over this hill? You climbing a little mountain and you go, oh shit, here's a bunch of other stuff over here.
Mm,
So it's just the idea that like it's more of a feeling that like things are happening, things are changing, and that things aren't just kind of like, you know, you don't feel like on some level just oppressed by the world into a corner where you have like, you're like, this is just, like a feudal peasant where you're just like, this is it for me. I'm a peasant. And that's just that. So really,
so in a state of like pursuit of progress, is that a
yeah, I like the idea that your life's expanding. If you feel like
yep,
there's new things about to unfold in your life that you're kind of putting together, that
yep.
tends to be vitality. And I think a lot of that comes from too being able to just be in the moment and not just be in your head all day or just be like, if only this, if only that. Like today, I went for a run and was just like, just focusing on breaking my record, stuff like that. Like just little, you can throw your own little things or like, rather than just being like, I'm working out, it's like, no, I'm breaking my record from before, I'm using apps to keep track of stuff. So that to me is like, you can realize you're getting to a different place, although it doesn't feel like it, but it's like, no, I'm actually getting faster. I can run
Yep.
longer, just stuff like that. You can spread that out across any different, a variety of different arenas in your life. And I think if you're not kind of doing that, it's easy to get sucked into the kind of like, dude, even doing all this stuff, I'll still have nights where I just am like, I'll just be like, meh, I feel kind of shitty. But while I feel shitty, I'm just like, well, I just got to storm this. Like I have a bunch of stuff going on that I'm actually genuinely excited about. So I'm like, I probably just need sleep. And you wake up and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm completely stoked. So,
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree. What I hear you saying, and let me know if I'm missing something. It's being in a state of constant pursuit and making progress. So a state of progress, or offense versus defense. So staying on the offensive rather than in a defensive position. And then if you're doing that in the areas that are important in your life, if you notice that you're bummed out about something, most likely it's just a reflection of literally whether or not you're sleep deprived or, malnutrition or something like that. Like something fundamentally is off. But if you've got those fundamentals and you're in a state of progress, that leads to happiness or a sense of fulfillment. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah. Like it's like a sense of contentment where you're like, dude, I've had long periods of my life where I woke up every morning and just go, fuck. Like first thought, it's like I think immediately of where I have to go. And I just go, fuck. Like I can't get out of it. And then, luckily I've, finagled ways out of certain jobs and situations where I just like, you just open your eyes and you're like, fuck, dude, God damn it. That's been like relationship wise, that's been job wise, you name it, dude. I've inhabited it and been like, God damn it. So that is a bad feeling, man. It's a really bad feeling. And I would love to be able to help people get out of that state where they go from that, which is pretty hopeless and horrible to inhabit, to like the sense that you're light. And like I said, it's just negative and positive energy, man. It's like, if you can somehow, just put like shelf that, all that bullshit. Like, I love the way defensive versus offensive. It's like, because people will just sit there and just like try to keep bad things from happening. And it's just like, you should be out pursuing stuff and just letting whatever happens, to a degree, obviously. But yeah, man, that's it's just like, can you get people out of that thing of like, my life is fixed, it sucks, that's just what it is, to being like, no, I'm actually, it can just be the littlest things, man, of like you said, organizing a little block party, doing this, doing that. It's like, once you kind of get a taste for like, Doctor Strange in your own reality, you're like, all right, what else could I do? And it is kind of like, you can, in theory, expand that exponentially, but it's like, and especially when that's aligned with your own inherent interests, and not just kind of like the societally downloaded idea of success of like, I'm going to drive, I'm going to get the car and blah, 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 blah. Which again, if you want that, cool. But for me, that stuff doesn't really work. It's like, I need to be doing things. I need to be providing a very certain type of value, I think. And I think it's like a humanistic value. If that makes sense.
No, it completely makes sense. And I think you're spot on. There is something, it should be called like the law of offense, like the law of offense versus defense. Staying on offense, putting yourself in the driver's seat to really take ownership and to move forward. That's the only way. Like, I think I listened to the Joe Rogan podcast not too long ago. Actually, I think it was years ago. And he interviewed, who was it? The Gracie guy, the guy, the BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. What was his name? Is it not Hoyt? No, it's not Hoyce. It was, oh man, Hickson Gracie. Okay. He's supposed to be like the Michael Jordan of jiu-jitsu. And he interviewed this guy. And at that point in time, he was coming out with a new, kind of like a new federation for jiu-jitsu. And his whole point was, he was pissed off. And I'm summarizing this. I'm sure a bunch of Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys would crush me on this. So I'm sorry if I'm going to butcher this. However, he was coming out with this new federation and saying, we're going to have new rules, because right now what's going on are there are way too many jiu-jitsu athletes playing defense. They're not in pursuit. They're not on offense. And that's not what this is about. He's like, we want athletes who are in pursuit. He's like, that's what people enjoy watching. That is going to develop the skill set. And by nature, obviously, jiu-jitsu does teach you how to defend yourself, clearly. He said, but what we want for the sport is offense. And that really reminded me of like, oh, that's how life should be, right? The people who get rewarded, the people who get the points, right, are the ones who score points on offense. I can't stand the saying like, oh, defense wins championships. It's like, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. I know that sounds really good, but you can't tell me the best defense in the world, if they don't score points, doesn't matter. That's how you win a game. That is how you win a game.
What's the saying? The best offense is a good defense.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's like, nah, no, it's not. Because here, I can ask you, and Matt, I think you and I are probably equivalent on NBA knowledge, I assume, which is like relatively subpar to like your typical fan. I'm just guessing.
Sure.
Right. Can you tell me who some top scorers were? Like who are some of the top scorers?
Yeah,
in the
I mean,
NBA?
it's just Michael Jordan, LeBron James.
Yep.
Can
you name a few others?
Michael Jordan, LeBron James. I'm just going to name the 96 Bulls now. Scottie Pippen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I know there's like, who's the guy? Carmelo Anthony. I know the top scorer of every team, basically.
Right. So think about that.
Well,
now,
no, of 4 teams, but yeah.
tell me, there you go. Tell me 3 people who've won Defensive Player of the Year.
Dennis Rodman. I think he was good at blocking shots. Mutombo.
I don't know. I don't think he's ever won Defensive Player of the Year.
I know Mutombo blocked shots. So yeah, no. For the prove your point, no, not at all. I know Mutombo could block shots. Maybe Yao Ming, whoever's like Shaq, I guess sometimes could block shots. But yeah, nobody really. Maybe. It doesn't. Nobody. It's a secondary. Dude, I was a good rebounder in basketball. Tell me I was a good rebounder. I don't think I got any ass off of my rebounding skills playing basketball. Nobody gives a shit. It's one of those things they told me, like, yeah, you're a good rebounder because I sucked at making shooting the baskets. So it's like that's the only thing people care about. That's the only time people really cheer. I got a lot of rebounds. The stands never erupted, dude. We're like, whoa.
Yep. Damn. No, and you brought up Dennis Rodman. So Dennis Rodman's a great example. Like the amount of superior skill that you have to have in the defensive game is astronomically larger than the equivalent on the offensive game. We could sit here and probably name, in 10 seconds, you name, let's say 4 or 5 players who are great at offense. You struggle to find 1 or 2 or 3 who are great at defense. And I don't think any of them were ever Defensive Player of the Year. It's just a human part of the human psyche that we recognize the leaders who are going out there and taking risks and pursuing and winning points, right? Whether it be getting the kill, right, or whatever, winning the championship, earning the points. That's what we value because those are the pioneers. Defense is just protecting what you have, right? Yeah. There's no excitement there. There's no, I just protect what I have. Well, what do they call it? The law of is it the law of atrophy or entropy? I forget which one it is. But by definition, everything that you have, by its own nature, decays over time. So protecting what you have, and you find this all over, right? If you look at money, right, like money decays just by nature of inflation. So protecting what you have will, by definition, make you less wealthy over time. That's a defensive position. Protecting what you have of your body and not going out and tearing down muscle tissue again, right? Law of atrophy, not going and using that muscle. By definition, over time, you will lose the muscle. This happens time and time again. I just think the people who say, like, oh, defense wins championships, that's because you don't know how to play offense. Let's be real clear. That's what that is, because it's more scary and you can put more effort into playing offense than you do defense.
That's true. I mean, dude, having someone get around you is like, hey, you got around me. But, like, missing a shot is like, God damn it. Miss a shot. It's like, if someone gets around me, I'm like, shit, he's pretty fast. But, like, when you miss a shot, you're like, shit, damn it. But
the amazing thing is,
love that, man. That I do like that, and that's obviously going to be my takeaway. Not to jump the gun, but that just so I can like that is something I really, really like, of being like, especially being like, things are pretty good now. We'll do what works, and then it's like, no, I think you got to constantly be, just moving, doing new stuff, and just again, keeping yourself in an expansive state where you're just kind of like, I like that saying a lot. Like I feel expansive right now. That's I think what Vitalized.
You look expansive right now, bro.
That might be a personal attack. I've definitely been gaining a little weight.
No, that is not a personal attack.
No, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I've been feeling expansive, man. I don't know, dude. Like I've always had a kind of like a cheery disposition, really, for the most part. Like, I'm excited. I show up at work. I'm excited, just to be around people. Usually if I get caged into a place, I don't really like it. But the piece that I feel like specifically you gave me of like just doing this thing that, a lot of times feels kind of like unsexy, or like, I don't know what to say, of like, you actually keep track of all your habits. There's like an uncool, quote unquote, I guess, connotation. I don't know how else to explain it.
Sure.
And I don't think that was ever what was keeping me from doing it. I think it was just sheer laziness and kind of like being spread across a bunch of different things. But when you finally kind of nail yourself down to, like, again, like you just said, like scoring points, like what are points for me? And it's like, once you clearly define that, and then it's just like your day, that whole existential angst of like, what am I doing? What is this? What's the point of this? It just goes away, because you're like, oh no, here's my points. I'm trying to score them. And that's what my day consists of. It's pretty simple. And then, like I said, the other day, again, I just, and I'm not trying to get too like in my feelings, but I just had that night, I just didn't feel well. I was just kind of like, I feel shitty. I feel like shit's a miss. And if I'm not keeping track of all the cool stuff that's going on, where I'm like, oh no, this is just like a mental storm kind of thing, where it's like, then you go from being like, that can kind of, those little mental storms can set off if you're not rooted in like a little program or something you're doing. And this is what used to get me, sporadic action, where it's like, oh, I got to do this now. And you jump and jump and
Mm.
jump and jump and jump back and forth. And you go, well, fuck, I didn't do anything. I just jump back and forth to avoid certain feelings. And it's like, when you have everything that's like going on, that's kind of like, you have like a program going on, you're doing all the stuff you like to do. When those things come up, I was in the bathtub thinking about this the other night. It's like, at that point, you're just basically like, you're Darwin looking at a skull, just being like, what a stormy night this is. It's like, and I started literally laughing about that, how being like, damn, I'm basically just Freud, dude, just like hands on the thing, staring out a window, just being like, how dreadful. And then, wake up the next day.
You need the tub, the iron tub with the claws on the bottom, which weigh like 5,000 pounds. By the way, I think you and I used to. Remember we were rehabbing houses for your cousin. We used to have to carry that shit outside. Those things weigh an unbelievable amount. But I'm sorry,
they're heavy as shit. But yeah, that's kind of like, then you hit those moments. So in all honesty, you hit those kind of moments, and it's just more of like, they don't really have a deep effect. It's just something. And that's also with a lot of the act stuff of just like noticing thoughts, noticing feelings, all that stuff. Yeah, it's just kind of like, you're like, huh, this is my mental state right now. It'd be like pretty interesting. It's almost like if you think about like, and to be like the idea that people like, should be not experiencing that at all is like, it just doesn't, if you're doing anything and putting yourself out there, you're going to have nights where you just feel like, fuck. Cause you're going to obviously fuck stuff up here and there. So it's like, I've been embracing all of that stuff, dude. I started thinking about like, Marcus Aurelius. Like there was guys back then who were like, they would be in a little like a general tent, and they like bust out a monocle, see how the battle's going. People, everyone's head getting cut off and being like, fuck. Got to go back to the tent that night. They were definitely looking at a skull being like, God damn it, dude.
Oh, yeah.
What did I do? But it's like, I don't know, man. I just feel like the kind of like sheltered, disconnected, kind of like cybernetically coddled life that a lot of people are being pushed into, of like, I'll just plug into my social media. I'll just complain about the election. I'll just do this shit. It's just such a saccharine substitute for just like what you actually should be doing, of like being out in the world and just like, feeling the feelings of doing actual things that you think you can't do. That's me. And I just think a lot of people have now almost like a pacifier, and it's like,
right.
You got to get weaned off it at some point. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. I could just be spouting nonsense, but I just feel like the doing nothing now is being kind of arbitrarily rewarded in like just meaningless, like likes or this or that, or, LOL.
Well, dude, I don't think it's just you. I don't think it's just you. Like I think especially as men, we are to a certain degree being, and this is going to sound terrible, but to a certain degree, our natural aggression is being suppressed because we've got so much going on in the world right now that says, hey, don't do that. That is a bad thing. That is, what do they call it?
Toxic masculinity.
Yes, that toxic masculinity. I've heard that many times. I try not to get caught up in all of like the new slang for all of like these just the time waster things. However, like that one caught my eye because as men we have testosterone. That's just a real thing, right? I think if you walk in any biology department in any university, they will tell you that men have testosterone, and testosterone yields a certain amount of activity, a certain amount of aggression. You can focus that aggression positively or negatively. That's my novice interpretation of how testosterone is, how it plays out in the world. That's why when Jordan Peterson talks about 95% of nurses are women and 95% of prison inmates are males, that in my opinion, that is a pure display, pure example of testosterone used in the wrong way, obviously. But there's a reason for those numbers, right? Those two ends of the bell curve. But if we can, instead of just hearing, oh, toxic masculinity, or like, oh, you're just being a typical masculine guy, it's like, no, maybe we should figure out ways to positively use that aggression. And because what you're saying, Matt, I'm completely agreeing with you. It's not just you saying, shit, maybe I need to make progress. Like maybe I actually need to go out there and do something, like apply a certain amount of force out there into the world so I actually get the results, and earning those points in the world. That, in my opinion, that's what a man does. That's what we do. That is what we are biologically driven to do. Testosterone forces, we are the hunters. And if we're not out there hunting, and so many things in society now tell us we're not allowed to hunt, right? So it's like, no wonder you have everybody sitting back and playing video games. It's like, what more expression do we need of like the majority of our men are sitting inside playing heroes on a digital screen, right? Because that's their natural DNA saying, I want to be a fucking hero. Like I want to go and do that stuff, but I can't go out there and do that in the world. That's a very crazy thing. So we need to like force the message out there. It's like, no, go do that in the world, obviously in a positive direction, but be that like express that force that I think all of us have. I have not talked to a single male who does not have that inside him. As corny as that forced thing sounds, I don't know, man. It's like, if you don't do that, like it's going to come out in one way or another. And if you suppress it for too long, man, ooh, that's a bad situation.
Yeah, because then you have to convince yourself like you're not doing anything wrong. So then you got to fully buy into like the last 20 years of your life, which maybe have been sort of, I want to say a waste, but like spent not the best way. And like confronting that's hard, dude. It's kind of difficult. So you'll just be like, no, I'm right. And you'll just keep doing your weird stuff. But yeah, if you even like thinking about like you were saying, like, I feel like a lot of people have settled into being like, well, I can just go on and be like ironically, hipply detached online. And like, there's a whole hive mind of people just being like, kind of like ironically distanced and be like, whatever, this place is like going down anyway. If you took all of that concentrated like consciousness basically and just pointed it at like politics are bullshit. And you just pointed all of that energy, just like, actually, fuck this. Let's try to reshape this. Dude, it would boom. It would just, you could transform it, I think, within a few months, in my opinion. That's my theory. Rather than just being like, whatever. And I do think all that, a lot of that stuff's fucking stupid the way it's set up. But it's like, I don't know, man. It's like just sitting there and being like, stuff's rigged, can't do anything about it, which is what I've said forever. It's like, well, let me see, because that would be a travesty if I were to say that. And turns out it's like, they're like, what the hell are you doing? Like, oh, good idea. If that could, I don't know. I do go back and forth on that personally, but it's like, at least to try, that's all you can do is try and just actually see for yourself rather than like
effort.
Kind of tough. Yeah. Imagine like, you're on your deathbed. I think about that a lot. It's like, I was glad I wrote all those comments online, or I'm glad I did that. You're not going to say that. You're going to be like, fuck, dude, I'm dying. But if you actually go out and enact actual positive change in the world in a way that, you deem fit, or you preserve whatever you want to do. If you go out, if you think of an agenda, you go after it as hard as you can. I have a feeling you're kind of like, your whole death experience is going to be a little different rather than like in a room by yourself being like, where's everybody kind of stuff.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, you don't have to wait. I think that the deathbed model is a great mental model to use. But for those of you who are listening who can't relate to that, maybe it's too far away, or just for some reason there's a disconnect. It's like you can't really relate to that. It's like you could do that today. Just looking today and take an inventory of the last week or the last day and saying, oh, shoot, right? Like, do I feel like I'm valuable? Or like, am I being valuable to the people around me and to myself? And you can real quickly, if I were to die today, would people show up, right, to the funeral? Right. And what would they say about me? Those little mental, whatever you have to do to trick yourself into like really taking an inventory of your actions and your points that you've scored over the last week or so, or the last X amount of time. It doesn't, you will realize within 10 seconds, 20 seconds, a minute tops about your real value to the world. And I honestly do think that we should judge ourselves off of the value that we produce. Like, ask yourself the question, how valuable are you? And I know that might not be a politically correct question, or a question that many religions would really like to ask, because they say that all lives are equal. I'm not going down that road, but I'm saying if you had to take your own personal inventory of asking yourself how valuable on a scale of 0 to 10, and had to be completely honest with yourself. And if you ask those who are close to you, around you, all the stakeholders around you, your wife, your girlfriend, your business partner, your best friends, whatever, right? What score would they give you?
Yeah. Or just like, how many times do people say thanks to you?
Good metric.
Does anyone ever say thanks to you?
Good metric.
And I want to start getting, now you just actually pumped me up to do this. It's something I thought about doing a lot, and just, just for my own little kind of entertainment / mindset thing of like laying down every night is like a mini death. Like, I just go down, I'm on my,
nice.
I'm like, what have I done?
Nice.
My days as many lives, and I just lay there and I'm like, I love you, Brittany.
Wow. So, dude, that's my takeaway for today. That is I'm going to write that down. You just earned yourself a spot in my mental models list, my friend.
Yes, dude. Yes. I've always thought about that, and the thought always kind of passed through my head and never materialized. But I'm like,
wow.
I'm
writing it down right now.
Put a candle next to me and be like, Brittany, let the dogs out one last time. I'm about to go to bed.
No, man, dude, that, I don't know. Maybe listeners would be like, what the fuck is Wes talking about right now? Or what is Matt talking about right now? But that, for some reason, the way you just put that, like, treat every night as a mini death, that just encapsulates, like, did you do your shit today? right?
Yep.
Like, when you talk to Matt, did you put everything into the podcast that you possibly could? When you had your meeting with that person, and us, as you say it now, it's like, shoot, now I'd probably be a little bit more aware of how I'm spending all of my minutes, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, I know I'm about to have a mini death tonight, So,
Yeah.
so am I putting this in there? Right?
Yeah. When you have like 40 years, you're like, when you put the clock on the day, it's like, when I feel like I wasted my day, it's like, it kills me, man. I hate it. Unless I'm actively relaxing. There's some times where my body's just like, dude, I'll feel completely sapped, where it's like nothing does it for me. And then I know like I actually need to recharge, which, is good to do.
Yep.
But yeah, I think for me, that's like a 14-to-1 ratio in terms of days. Like I can kind of go hard for but then again, on the weekends, I feel like Sundays are good. They kind of figure that out in the Bible, I think, pretty well. Like I do the same thing.
I agree.
I track during the business week. Saturdays, I still do my thing. I still kind of do some stuff. There's like work stuff I do on Sundays, but like I'm just kind of like, doing my thing. I'm not tracking anything. I'm just kind of like, doing what I do. But,
I have found something similar.
With the diet too. Same thing with the diet. I go pretty hard with the diet business week. I might let my hair down a little bit on a Sunday, but
Nice.
Something I can snap back right out of now that I have like I'm, calculating all of it.
I have found that the biblical time schedule is beneficial as well. 6 days on, 1 day off.
Yeah.
And dude, I've tried to, in my head, I'm like, no, I don't want to pay attention to the Bible. Right. Like in my head, I'm like, no, like can't be. And dude, I gotta tell you, that 6 day on, 1 day off, like I repeatedly find myself saying, damn it, that is right. That is spot on. Yeah. I don't know why. It's just, there's something to it. Like it is spot on.
Yeah, man. It's pretty, sure. I mean, there's a book, I think I talked about this a couple episodes ago, Fourth Turning, but people can say like, it gets into like predictive type stuff, but their idea of like, just for even investing to think about every 20 years, there's a generation and they're like, oh, we're in a different generation now. It's because like every 20 years, the people who were kids are now adults. And now it's like the world's being shaped by their ideas. And then at 20 years, like, whoa, it's so different again. It's like, and then they say it all kind of culminates in a century and then kind of repeats in a kind of similar fashion. Typically, if you look at like the issues and what's going on, but even just to say like, knowing when people are like, oh, I'm the best, I'm doing this, like, well, every 20 years, the world typically changes some, like, has like a pivot or something. So it's something kind of to keep in mind.
Dude, I cannot get this mini death thing out of my head. Do you like, I kind of like the ritual around it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, is there something like, this is going to sound good. This is how psychotic I am, but like, do you lay down and like, do you do something?
I'm going to start. No, this was only just an idea I've ever had while doing the dishes. I get all my ideas while I'm doing the dishes. That's the only reason I do the dishes anymore. Yeah. I get all my good ideas while I'm doing the dishes, apparently. And that's just something that would float through my head. And I'd be like, awesome. And then, I never do it. But now when I was saying that, I'm like, I'm going to start incorporating that in. That it might be, I might add an extra, that might be rather than I'm going to track my sleep, obviously, but that might be part of my habit thing. My habit thing's getting long. I used to be able to say it. It used to be smevels. Now it's like, swevels them, but now it's going to be like the swevels. Now, it might be the swevels them. So, but I'm going to try to do that tonight for sure and start building that in where I like lay and reflect. Because before it's like I'll lay down. I'm going to replace which I kind of liked was my audiobook, myself to sleep. But now it's like I've been liking just like no audiobook, no anything. My day is done and I retire to my chambers and I'll lay there and not listen or do anything. So now all I have to do is add the mini death thing and just lay there and be like, let life slowly slip from me and be like, ugh.
Dude, I'm all about like some sort of ritual at the end of the night to act out like a mini death and just to put yourself through the mind state of, okay, yep, if this were the last night, like here it is. Did I accomplish what I want to accomplish? But for some reason it's just clicked when you said it. I was like, damn, that is spot on, man. That's a great mental model.
It's a mastermind, dude. Come on.
Cool. That's right, man.
This is perfect harmony. You have to be in perfect. I love that too. I have to be in perfect. Dude, it's kind of true.
Oh yeah,
you're doing something and there's like little bubblings underneath that no one's addressing. The shit like the whole thing falls apart, which is kind of funny. So, but yeah, man, I think I'm gonna erect a picture or like some sort of like little statue type thing on my nightstand, just like very death like skull type stuff.
Dude, damn you! I'm putting it on my action list right now. Get a skull.
I'm going on Amazon immediately, get some weird creepy thing and put it on my nightstand.
Well, the book, phenomenal book called Persuasion. Dude, eventually we should get into some sort of, maybe on the Patreon account when we get more of that up and running, we'll do like some sort of like book summaries or something for the listeners who want to contribute on Patreon. But there's a phenomenal book called, what's it called? It is called Persuasion by Bart Cialdini.
Mm-hmm.
And his precursor book to that was called Influence. And the book is all about persuasion. Unbelievable 2 books. If you're going to read any of those books, read Persuasion, and that will kind of give you a nice summary of his original book. But he talks about in there environmental stimulus and how that actually dictates, like, it was something crazy. Like, they actually measured this. It was like something 75 to 80% of your behavior is dictated from your natural environment. So putting a skull, in this case, next to your bed, that will trigger that for sure every single night. Reminder, treat this like a death, right? Did you do your shit today? Did you fill out your scorecard? Did you earn the points that you wanted to earn? And if not, okay, but you're going to die tonight, right?
Damn.
And if you're lucky enough to wake up tomorrow morning, fucking remember that. Remember this feeling right now.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a good litmus test for, if you're going to bed every night and being like, I've done all that I can do and passing out, you're most likely not going to die in vain and being like, all that kind of stuff. That's got to be a horrible, horrible, horrible experience. But I love the idea now of, like, I've never been big on decorating or like known how to do it. But now it's like, when you think about decorating, you think about the fact that you are just setting up external stimuli. There might be one that, like, kind of a picture that kind of calms you down, a certain color that, like, you're in this room, you kind of relax. But I do like the idea of setting stuff up where, like, you're just, dude, I really like that. I'm going to set up a lot more external stimuli, because, I mean, having the little board, having the dream board, I like that a lot. Having the dream board on the laptop, big help. That, like, because then I'm always at my computer. You put them in places you're always at, and you go,
yep,
well, that's right. I got to sit down and write all that stuff down that I usually would just forget about. Dude, I would usually, the fact that I have done this every single day, even if I've missed a day here and there, like, rarely, and then I'll go back and be like, oh, and I'll still fill it out. And like, all right, I know all the stuff I did. Did I do these things? Yes, I did it. Okay, cool. Dude, it's like, it's unprecedented. So I think you're 100% right. The external stimuli is the biggest one, man. And it's
after.
Go ahead.
Oh, good. No, please.
The only thing I'm saying is, like, this is just applying, like, everybody has things in their life that aren't working. So it's like, rather than just kind of being like, you're just being like, boom, I'm going right into this. I'm going to do as many things as I can to make sure that this isn't the case. It's nothing that crazy. It's just, you need support to do that. You need support in identifying those areas. You need support in persevering through them, and even judging and calibrating, like, how am I going to go about this? You just do. So
no, if everybody listens to this podcast, if they read that book, Influence or Persuasion by Bart Cialdini, you'll see how important external stimuli is. I mean, it's crazy important. And I was pointing to Matt, for those of you who are listening, in my background, I've got this, like, Pinteresty looking background, but that's for a reason. So I built this background probably 4 years ago now, and still, when I walk into my office, if you look behind me, there's an S, an ampersand, and an E over here on this side, and that stands for show up and execute. And
damn,
as
dude,
cheesy as that sounds, man, like, because I did the research on, there was one book that talked about, like, 80% of results are from people who just show up, but if you want 99% of the results, show up and execute. And yeah, that thing, man, like, still, I walk into my office and it's like, boom, show up and execute.
damn,
Yep, just reminds me.
Fuck.
Yep.
Damn, that fucking rules, dude. I never even thought about it. The fact that you have cryptic messaging set up on the wall is like, fuck, man.
Dude,
Next
environmental
level.
stimuli, man. It's the game changer. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's also why I hate working from home. I cannot stand, I despise working from home. It's not my thing. If what I have to do, I think, is just have an office at the house, and, like, it just create that environment to be directed in that particular goal.
Yeah.
Right, like, show up and execute in that particular goal. So yeah, but environment, dude, you're going to become your own interior decorator, man. I'm telling you, once you get hooked on it, you'll notice. Just try it. And for those of you listening, just try changing one little thing. If you don't have an entire room in your house, build a little corner for yourself, where, that maybe you get a little desk from IKEA or on Craigslist, whatever you can afford, and say, that is the corner where I'm going to do this. Here is the goal. So I'm going to put my skull there, right? Whatever the little thing is, or buy your nightstand. Dude, I'm telling you, I'm going to order a skull today from Amazon.
As soon as we get done, I'm going on Amazon and ordering. Brittany's going to absolutely despise this thing. I might have to, like, hide it in my underwear drawer and just take it out and, like, pet it at nighttime. Like, good night. See you on the other side. Yeah,
that
man.
Is awesome, dude. That is my takeaway for sure, man. Dude, always awesome time. Any homework for the guys? Get a skull?
Obviously get a skull. I
Yes.
think the homework definitely is just do one thing, man. One external. I'm doing it at my house. It's gonna be a fight. I know it's gonna be a fight, and I'm gonna get through that. But I'm gonna do some definitely start putting around some like cryptic messaging for myself in my
Ooh,
decorations. I'm actually like now pretty excited about this.
awesome. Hell yeah, man. All right, brother. Till
Dude,
next time.
always the best.